I'm Karen Friedman Agnifilo from Legal AF, and I wanted to talk tonight about this breaking news of a Utah man who was shot and killed during an execution of a FBI sting at his home. It's a guy who basically was armed and threatened to assassinate President Biden. And his name was Craig Robertson. He was also charged with threatening to shoot other elected officials like Alvin Bragg, who's the Manhattan DA. Law enforcement said that when they filed documents earlier today in Salt Lake City in the district court, that this was directly related to threats against similar people who Donald Trump likes to talk about and make threats about. Although they're not linking Donald Trump directly to this man and to his actions, he has offered Donald Trump all of the fodder that they need, right? That they need in order to know exactly what they should be doing. And I wanted to get on here tonight and talk about the fact that these words, he's trying to say free speech, and that's what his defense is all free speech, free speech. I can say what I want. These words have consequences, they are actions, and they are a dog whistle to extremists like this man, Craig Robertson, who was going to, who was involved in wanting to assassinate President Biden. He's armed. He's dangerous. He had guns, and he was very, very specific about who he was going to kill. He put on social media last week that that President Biden would be visiting Utah, and he was going to dust off an M24 rifle and get out his old camouflage suit, and that's one that is typically used by snipers. And he had lots of online posts that he was going to kill President Biden. He called him Mr. Biden and Mr. Bragg, and that the time is right for a presidential assassination or two. First Joe, then Kamala, he wrote. And, on and on, the same rhetoric that we hear from MAGA supporters and Donald Trump and those individuals. And it's really scary, right? He said something in September, for example, referring to Letitia James, who's the Attorney General in the state of New York, who's suing Donald Trump and his family, and it's going to trial this October. He wrote on Facebook that a sniper's bullet does not recognize your qualified immunity. He shared a picture in 2022 of a semi-automatic handgun, calling it a Merrick Garland eradication tool. And in another post, he also described what he calls a patriotic dream, and he stood over a picture of a wounded Mr. Newsom, and my suppressed Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm still smoking. And at another point, he also taunted the FBI. To my friends in the Federal Bureau of Idiots, I know you're reading this. And the FBI became increasingly concerned about his threats to his agents and to everybody else. And so what ended up happening is a confrontation with him today, and he ended up dying from a gunshot wound. But I wanted to talk about this individual because Trump's words, let's back up. Let's back up to his words surrounding January 6th, right? He tweeted to people, leading up to the events of January 6th, be there on January 6th. It's going to be wild, right? Look at all the dangerous rhetoric. The day of the speech on the ellipse, he was talking about how Mike Pence is, weak. And he used other words for Mike Pence, and encouraging people to march to the Capitol. And he knew they were armed. Remember the testimony before the Jan 6 committee, where people were telling him on the speech in the ellipse that, that he was like, where are all the people? What's taking them so long to get through? And they were saying they have to go through the magnetometers because many of them are armed. And he said, it doesn't matter. They're not here to hurt me. And so he knows he brought these individuals in armed. He whipped them into a frenzy. pointed them at the Capitol. And what did they do? They stormed the Capitol. And afterwards, what did they all say? What have they all said, person after person? We did it because we thought he wanted us to. That's what we thought. We were answering his call. Remember when he said during the debate, Proud Boys, stand back, stand back or stand by or something like that, whatever. They knew what he was telling them. Everybody does. And then, don't forget when Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, indicted him, he next thing you know, he puts up a picture of himself holding a baseball bat next to a picture of Alvin Bragg's head. And, everybody knows that's a threat, right? It's a clear threat. And then he says, oh no, I was just, it was a mistake. I was just advertising for, American-made baseball bats, But his followers, they get the message loud and clear. They take it as he is sending them a message to commit acts of violence. And then we get another indication from Fani Willis that she's getting threats because she said that she is upping her security detail. And we also know that the threat this weekend, that Jack Smith, when he asked for a protective order, he put the tweet that Donald Trump, or the social media posting that he put up that talked about, if you come after me, I'll come after you, in context with the fraud squad, all the people who this individual today had threats against: Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Joe Biden, Fani Willis, and Jack Smith, right? So there's a pattern here. Donald Trump is clearly putting a target on these individuals. He is clearly signaling to his followers that they should commit violent acts against these people, and he is threatening them in the process. That's not free speech. That's action. Those are words. Those are threats, and those are causing people to act. And at this point, so many people have acted on his behalf, and so many people have taken his calls to action, that he can no longer look the other way and must be held responsible for his words. He's going before Judge Chutkin this week, and hopefully she will not only, in addition to give Jack Smith the protective order for the discovery that he asked for, so he can't put all of the discovery on social media and thereby threaten witnesses, hopefully she'll also admonish him strictly to stop with these threats, stop with these words, and tell him if he does it again, there will be significant consequences. And hopefully he'll be treated like every other defendant and put in jail while he awaits his trial. You do not have a right to threaten and cause harm to prosecutors, judges, witnesses, etc. You don't have a constitutional right to do that. And he should be ashamed of himself. He's the former president of the United States of America. He knows what he's doing. And there's enough evidence at this point that everybody knows what he's doing, and he must be held to account. I'm Karen Friedman Agnifilo from Legal AF.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.